Hello humans. So since currently the main thing I'm working on is fixing up the outline for a novel, I thought I would do the author outlining tag. I've written drafts of a few different projects and I've done the outlining process for each one kind of differently each time, so I have a pretty good measure of what works for me. I saw this tag on JC Carpenter's channel, so I'll link her video in the description. I will also have all the questions listed out down there. Question 1. There are many things to think about when outlining an entire novel, so where do you start? When I start outlining a novel, I usually start with just a document of all the things I know in rough order of how they should happen. So all my notes, all my ideas, all my specific lines and dialogue I've thought of, I'll just include those in rough order and then fill in the gaps in between later whenever I go through and fully flesh out the whole thing. Question 2. How much outlining do you do before you start writing? So I'll write lines that I think of and maybe a little bit of specific scenes, but before I start writing the project as a whole, I'll have the entire thing outlined pretty in depth. So there are little bits I'll write before I have anything outlined, but then before I start writing the actual thing, I have the whole thing outlined. Question 3. Do you outline all of your books the same way? Like I said, I have outlined different projects different ways in the past, but I think now I have a pretty solid method of how I like to do it. So I think for the foreseeable future, I'll be outlining them all the same way. But in the past, no, I have not. Question 4. Describe what your outlining process looks like. Okay. So my outlines are ridiculous. The one I'm currently working on fixing something in, it's 30 pages, about 20,000 words long, just dense with text, and it just goes through every step of the story, and then it has specific details about dialogue and specific lines I want to include. It's basically the novel condensed form. Like I said, I will start with just the basics that I have in my notes for the story, because I tend to let things sit in my brain for a long time and collect notes and inspiration as I go. So I'll have all of that in the document and then go through and just make basically the complete story in between. Just start at the beginning, describe everything. Question 5. What is the hardest part of the outlining process? Definitely when you mess something up and have to go back and re-edit a 30,000 word document that isn't actually a final product. That's very frustrating. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's the hardest part. Question 6. What is the easiest part of the outlining process? I would say the easiest part would be moving over all the notes and general inspiration in the first step when I start. Because I just have a folder for each of my theoretical projects, and I keep bits of paper with stuff in it, and notes and character names, and then the same thing in a folder on my computer. So yeah, the easiest part is moving all that and lining it up. After that is coming up with new stuff, so that's when it gets a bit more complicated. Question 7. Advice for a newbie. What do you know about outlining that you wish you had known as a newbie? Okay, so this is controversial because different people are different, but for me personally, more is more. For me, the more I have to work with in an outline, the easier the actual draft is to write. So for earlier drafts, I wished I had known, okay, you need to be as detailed as you can be in the outline. And yeah, that causes problems if there's something you want to go back and change, but it makes the actual drafting process way easier. Question 8. What do you include in your outlining process now that you didn't when you first started out? Details. Details are what I include now. Because again, I've done different things for each of my first drafts that I've done so far. And the outlines for the original were just so bare bones, a sentence per chapter. And that is nothing to go on. Just having the details there to work with. Okay, this is some dialogue you need to work in. This is a scene thing that's important. And then just having it go step by step, it makes it so much easier. I've said that 1,000 times, but it is true. It is so much easier. Question 9. Do you stick to your outline while writing? If not, how do you adjust your outline to accommodate direction changes? well, yes and no. I said earlier that what I'm working on now is fixing an outline to accommodate a direction change. What ends up in the outline I usually go with pretty much 100%, but original drafts of the outline the first outline is like the first draft of the outline. It gets edited. So basically what I'm going through doing now is rewriting it to include some characterization changes and a pretty major plot change. But it's all basically the same, like characters and setting and overall plot. Question 10, last but not least, how important is outlining in regards to your writing process? So important. So important. I am a bit obsessed with having everything lined out before I start something. Like, when I do paintings, I do sketches, like initial sketches and on the actual canvas, and then I'll like lay down block colors. Like, I'm obsessed with like going step by step and gradually improving at each step. So like the outline is like one of those base sketches. It's vital. It's vital, and I definitely go overboard with it. My works flounder and die without a good outline. So that is all the questions. Hopefully I will be able to finish fixing this outline soon, because I really want to get into the actual writing process. That is honestly more fun than outlining. Oh, I should also add that I have decided to do NaNoWriMo this year, and I'm doing that in a weird way for me, but I will put up a video on that closer to time. Thank you for watching. See you next time.